Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of WYTPod. My name is Harshit, and I'm the Director of Business Alliances at WYTLABS. We are a digital agency specializing in SaaS and e-commerce SEO. And I've got Robert Rawson with me, owner and co-founder of Time Doctor. So, those of you guys who don't know Time Doctor, it's a time tracking software that helps measure productivity and empowers everyone to perform at their best, whatever they work. So, a big welcome to you, Rob, and I'm so happy to host you today.
Yeah, I'm really great to chat with you.
Brilliant. Now, before we dive into your platform, can you please let the viewers know a little bit about you and your professional journey? I'm curious to know, how did your background in medicine influence your journey towards entrepreneurship and founding of Time Doctor?
Actually, they're not that connected because I started medicine just because thought it was a great career. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, but I was very entrepreneurial. So I had this strong desire to start a business. Also wanted to be able to travel around the world, do whatever I wanted to do, have freedom, flexibility. So medicine was great, but I was trying lots of different businesses, even during medical school. I was trying businesses every year. I'd try something new. So I had that entrepreneurial spirit and drive. And I finished medical school, but then I was experimenting with some different business strategies. So one of them was SEO. Actually, I did a lot of SEO websites at that time, and I built the sites up. I was doing it part-time when I wasn't working. I'd hire some people to help me build the site, to write it. I did a website on satellite TV, which was actually in the US. I'm not from the US. In fact, we don't even have satellite TV in Australia where I'm from. But I did this website on satellite TV and it was good. It made some money. That was my first money-making site. I didn't even build the site. I got other university students to help build it. And I didn't know how to build a web page. And then I got it listed on various directories, and that was making some good money. At one point, it was making like 8,000 a month, which was a pretty good for a simple site at that time. So it started from there. My entrepreneurial journey, tried lots and lots of things. Eventually, for medicine, you really have to focus your whole life on it. It's not something you can be like half a doctor. You're not really doing justice to your patients. You have to be doing the best you can for them. And so I decided with all these entrepreneurial journeys that I just had to focus on that. And so I let the medicine go, and it's a great profession. I think it is amazing, but it was just that desire to achieve in business that made me go in a different direction. And I ended up being in the Philippines. I had a team there because I realized it's just not scalable, and working in Australia, it was very costly, and I just want to explore a different country. So I went over there. I had a team at one time of about 40 people in an office.
Okay.
And then I decided that, and this is very expensive, right? All this expensive office and equipment. And at that point, the business wasn't doing as well. Like the SEO, just building a site, I was doing affiliate and Google AdSense. It's not really a great branded kind of business. So it didn't have that long-term value, right? I made money for a few months and then the money went down. It wasn't really so great. And so some of that revenue started to drop. And so I needed to cut my costs. And so I got rid of the office. And I also didn't really want to live in the Philippines. I wanted to travel. So I actually got rid of the office and I created the software, Time Doctor, to have still my team working from home, have a greater deal of accountability so that people could feel that they're actually working productively and understanding what everyone was doing while they were working remotely. And that's how I started it. It was quite a long time ago, like 12, 13 years ago.
Yeah. Actually, a strategy that you followed so many years back, getting a workforce from Philippines, is something that even I see nowadays, most of the SEO agencies do. It has become quite a trend now. So yeah, you're one of the OGs who started it altogether. So that's brilliant, man. Would love to know, because with Time Doctor, you're focused on empowering remote teams. How do you basically see the future of remote work evolving in the coming years, especially post-pandemic?
Yes. I think people haven't figured it out fully. There's a lot of companies that are still trying to work out what's their strategy. And what I believe is not everyone's going to be working remotely. That's not the truth, but there is going to be a certain type of company that's like ours that's completely remote. And there's just you don't meet that often. You might meet once, twice a year, and that's it. There are other companies that are playing it both ways, and then they meet in the office once a week. I'm not a huge fan of that. And the reason is because what ends up happening is they go into the office once a week, and then one person goes to another city, and so they're remote. And then some people don't even want to come into the office once a week. It's not that hard compared to 5 times a week, but they still don't like that one time they have to commute. And you don't really get the full benefits there are benefits of an office, right? You have that collaboration, the spirit, the connection of everyone together. But if you're only there once a week, you don't really get that benefit. Not that much. You only get a little bit of social benefit. Maybe you can have some meetings. If you're all there on the same day, maybe. But the problem is that it just starts to dissolve because everyone starts to think, oh, I'm gonna go to another location, and then you end up hiring someone else, and then it just becomes like our company, which is we have people all over the place, and there's no way we can go to the office because they're too far apart. Can't even. We only meet like once a year, basically, or twice a year.
That's great. And I'm seeing that trend as well. I was talking to the SEO head of GetResponse, and they have complete global remote team. And that's a Polish company. And they're doing pretty great with respect to hiring local resources in the new markets that they wish to enter. Everyone, like from the SEO strategists to the content writers for that specific country, managing it really well. So yeah, I do see that trend, and even people, I think companies are much more open towards the idea. Yeah, I do understand that managing is something which is still a challenge. It's not something which people have overcome 100%, but yeah, it does require much more improvement on that front. And coming to that, I would love to know, because Time Doctor does talks about increase in productivity for its user, right? What are the key elements with Time Doctor that contribute most significantly to this increase?
Well, one thing is being aware of what you're actually working on as an individual. If you're intentional and focused on that, it actually increases your productivity. So you don't wander around all of these different projects and tasks. So Time Doctor does have different ways of operating, but the main way that I'm using at the moment is the project and task method, which is you're actually selecting what tasks you're working on. And I know it actually, I can see it on my screen right now. It's the meeting that we're on. And so I'm intentional about it. But if I was working on something else, then it makes me remember that's what I'm supposed to be doing. It also integrates with lots of different other tools, project management tools. So you can select the task on one of those tools and track time that way. It's also that transparency and accountability with team managers and individual team members. So it's providing a layer of where they feel more confident, and where the employee or the contractor can prove and show that they're working effectively to their team, to their manager. So that provides a layer of trust and accountability that they just feel more comfortable with the work that's going on. So that's another aspect to it as well.
Gotcha. And what strategies have been effective in promoting user adoption and ensuring a faster ROI for your customers?
So ROI with our software itself, like how to improve the ROI with the software. Yeah. It's great if you can use it. Our primary customers are using it in basically BPOs, business process outsourcing. And then, as I mentioned, I had a team in the Philippines. And so you have a team that's like remote and you're not necessarily seeing each other. So one best practice is you can actually see each other's time. You can have, I have a combination of flexibility and also accountability. So we allow in our own company, flexible work schedules. So you can work the hours that you want to. but you also have accountability because you're seeing how many hours each of the other team members are working. And so that provides that everyone is able to see what's going on. But the other thing is that if you're tracking time to a specific project, you can see, or tasks, you can see, look, this person or is spending so much time on this type of task. And then you can optimize processes in the company by saying, this is really taking too long. Can we automate that? Can we use AI to improve it? Is there something else that we can do to improve what's going on?
That's great. And because you're basically dealing with employees' data, so privacy and trust and security is something which does come along, especially companies taking your software, subscribing to your software would expect that, right? So what all measures do you take on that front, ensuring that this, with respect to privacy and
Yeah.
security, is sorted? Yeah.
Yeah, it's always something that SaaS companies, software as a service, have to pay increasing attention to because it's such a critical thing. And so firstly, we have a team of CISOs, information security officers, that will actually work on this in our company. So they do multiple things. So they'll look at trainings for our team on phishing emails. We actually just got our SOC 2 compliance. So that also helps us, all of those processes and procedures. And then in the software itself, we use source bug tracking. There's different crowdsourced software bug investigation companies, and they'll get like 100 people to look at your software and see if you can find bugs. So we also have automatic tracking to see if there's any security flaws as well. That's important, but that doesn't actually catch everything. You need to use these crowdsourced services like BugCrowd, for example, I think is one of them, to catch any flaws that you might have. It's the same thing that Google uses and Facebook, et cetera, because there could be flaws that you didn't realize. So there's multiple angles that you have to attack this from. You have to look at it from employee training. You have to look at it from the penetration of your software, the best practices in your company, all sorts of areas that you have to look at and make sure that you're doing the best job you can.
Okay. All right. And how does Time Doctor approach differ from other time tracking tools in terms of fostering a positive work culture and maintaining work-life balance for remote teams? Is it something that you do?
Yeah, it is part of what we're doing. We have a module in our software which actually detects if you're working too hard, overworked.
Okay.
And if there's work, we call it the work-life balance issues module. So you're actually looking to see, and I think HR leaders like this particular module, but it's looking to see if the person is overworked, they're working too late, all these kind of indicators that might be a problem with burnout. So these things are critical to make sure that your team do have work-life balance. And also for us as a company, we have lots of initiatives in that way. We have a sabbatical for 1 month where people can take a month off. We have paid time off. We have fairly generous paid time off. And so combining together, that's something I do believe in. I know some companies, if you take like a company like Facebook in its early days, maybe not so much now, but if you look at Tesla, like they will work so hard, and Amazon, the developers on there, it's expected. And I think certain people are happy to work really hard, long hours, 80, 100 hours, but most people don't want to work like that. They do want to have a life outside of work. And that's personally what I believe in as well.
Okay. Any programs that you run for your own, like Time Doctor's customer retention and loyalty?
We have a customer success team, which is a classic thing that you need to have in SaaS, software as a service. And they have meetings, they have quarterly meetings, monthly meetings. They're constantly making sure that the customer is getting what they need out of the software. So that process and how they run things is really critical and makes a big difference to retention. And then you've also got to constantly improve the software, right? So that as you improve the software, then people see the value. You've got to demonstrate the value to them. All of these sorts of things are what you need to do to make sure that they're not churning and they're staying with you.
And how's the churn rate?
We have a lot of small businesses. The small businesses always churn a bit more than the larger ones. So it's not as good for the small ones. That's a very common issue. For the larger ones, they just go out of business, the small ones, or they don't have the money anymore. Or they're quite common. But for the larger ones, our churn rate is pretty good. And a lot of our large customers also will be expanding over time as well. So, yeah.
Gotcha. All right. In what ways does Time Doctor utilizes user feedback and data continually to enhance its software and addresses evolving user needs?
We look at data from our user in multiple ways. We look at how they use the software, what modules they're using, how often they're logging in. We look at all the Google Analytics. We look at our own tools. We use Segment, for example, and then we can use that to send the data in different ways to analyze what people are doing. But yeah, we're constantly looking at what our users are doing. We also do split tests, conversion optimization. That's more on the marketing side, but it's also inside of the product sometimes. So we might do a split test where we send half of our customers to one version of the page and another half to another version. Then we see what they do, which one works better. We also record like videos of them looking to basically where they click on the page, and you can record playback. Yeah. And that just gives you some insights, because sometimes you see, oh, they're trying to click here, or they're confused, and it gives you a better idea what's going on.
Brilliant. Because with your extensive entrepreneurial background, what key lessons have you learned that have been instrumental in the growth and success of Time Doctor?
There's a lot, but the most important thing as an entrepreneur is to keep going and to be persistent. So this is sometimes hard. And then you have to know that you're onto something though before you're persistent. So if you're persistent in the wrong thing, obviously that's not great. It's so many little things that add up. And it really depends on the stage of your business. For example, in the beginning, one of the most crucial things was the fact that as we were building the software, we were using it ourselves and we were constantly improving it. And that improvement and that cycle of getting better and better really worked. And the fact that I was using my own software and then I knew what I needed, that really helped a lot. The hiring is critical, like getting the right people and that process. And also obviously the financial management. And a lot of businesses, they go out of business, basically they run out of money. They either, if they've got venture capital, they borrow too much, they get too much money from venture capital, then they overcommit, spend so much money, and then they can't really psychologically think about how they could reduce their expenses. But that's a really critical one as well. Yeah. And a business doesn't start until you actually sell something. So that's like step one is what are you going to sell? Like a lot of people, when they're going into business, they think about the product a lot. And yeah, the product is okay. Most cases, though, where you should start is how am I going to sell it and what am I going to sell? And you just patch something together, maybe a manual solution, and you sell that, and then you automate it a bit more. Yeah, lots of different things to think about depending on the stage of business that you're at.
Yeah. How do you see Time Doctor evolving its marketing strategies to reach a wider audience or cater to new industry verticals in the future?
That also depends on where you're at as a company. But for us, where we're at is focusing more on larger businesses and going up market. And we, in the beginning, were focused on all of the customers were just coming to us from the website. They were signing up online. We didn't have a sales team. And that's good to an extent, but there is some limits to that. And it's not necessarily the right approach for all businesses. And for our business, we've come to the realization that actually a Salesforce and larger Salesforce is more appropriate usually for larger companies. And we realized that we need to get that right in that process. So meeting the needs of these larger companies that are on our platform and figuring out how to get more of them, which is a really different mindset to just creating a website and people signing up online. So that's the transformation that we're doing at the moment, getting the right people that will do that and figuring out what marketing and sales strategies will work for that.
Good, good. I think, Rob, we're coming to an end, and I would love to have a quick rapid fire with you. Are you ready for that?
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. What one word do you want people to associate you with?
Really, it's about giving, effective giving. I know we didn't talk about that, but that's something that I've realized for myself is that I can make a lot of money in my life and already quite successful, but it doesn't mean anything unless you, by itself, it's really about what you can create with other people. And that's partly my employees and my family, but it's also about giving. Like I give to, actually, you're from India. I give to an organization in India called Educate Girls. It's like about how promoting education of women in India and Africa as well. It's a really great charity, and it's just really meaningful for me to give some of my profits to those kind of causes. And I really came across that through a guy called Peter Singer. He's got a book called The Life You Can Save, and it made me think a lot more about what could be my legacy, what could I do that I can actually make an impact in the world. And that's one of the ways. Besides my family, it's part of my legacy, but another part is really this contribution and giving.
Oh, that's really wise. Any funny nicknames your parents or friends or even work colleague used to call you?
Funny nicknames. They used to call me Dr. Rob, of course. Like that makes sense.
Right. What was your last Google search?
Wow. I mean, I'm gonna have to actually probably check that one, but I'm always searching for business class and like how I can get cheap business class tickets. So that's probably my last. Always try to get business class flights on points. That was probably my last search, actually.
All right. What's something you could eat for a week straight?
Probably sushi or Japanese food in general.
Okay. What is not a big deal to most people, but is a torture to you?
Wow, that's an interesting one. I don't like I don't like news. It's a bit of a torture because it's destructive, right? It's all this negative stuff. So especially
Yeah.
video or news. Yeah.
Okay. Now coming to my very last question. What is your hidden talent?
One of my best talents is really thinking about strategy and analyzing and using my brain to analyze it in a deep way. And also really thinking about numbers and deals and this sort of thing. So it's helpful if you really think it through. And yeah, if you combine that with the vision of being an entrepreneur, but you're also careful. And there's a lot of entrepreneurs that lose money because they're not careful with how they spend their money. So I think you need that combination. You need the vision and also being a bit careful with how you analyze your strategy and how you spend money.
All right. Thank you so much, Rob, for all the wisdom, all the information that you shared about Time Doctor, your journey with them. I really appreciate your time here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's great to chat. Thanks.